Okay, we are live. Hi there, thanks for joining us. This is our 6th live chat in Shopify Entrepreneurs. My name is Timothy Danberick, and I'm the Digital Marketing Manager at Storetasker. If this is the first time you're joining us, thanks for taking the time to watch. We do this each week at Wednesdays at 1 p.m. And if you didn't already know, Storetasker is the fastest, easiest way to get in touch with a vetted Shopify expert who can help fix your store. I'm just going to go ahead and make a quick note about next week. Next week, I'm going to be talking with Bar from Sumo. He's going to be tearing open a real live Shopify store to tell us what's wrong with it and how to boost conversion rates by making smart fixes. We're currently on the lookout for a volunteer who is willing to let us use your store on the chat. You'll get specific tips that are meant for your actual store, and we'll also give you a free hour of Storetasker to help sweeten the deal. If you'd like to be considered, send your name, email, and URL to me at hello@storetasker.com. Back to today. Today we have Chris and Michael with us, the co-founders of Trendly. Trendly is the easiest way to scale your community and generate content for your brand. Michael and Chris have prepared Influencer Marketing 101 for us. And we're going to be doing a short Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you have a question, just put it in the comments. We'll try to get to it at the end. Michael and Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Tell us more about what you're going to tell us about.
So the presentation today is, as you mentioned earlier, is Influencer Marketing 101. And there are some key takeaways that we want everyone that's watching in to make note of. So our basic outline is going to be talking about what influencer marketing is versus what influencer marketing is not.
Okay.
Then we're going to go through a step-by-step guide on how to create your own influencer marketing strategy.
Thanks.
And then we're going to see how this influencer marketing strategy that everyone viewing has created is going to fit into the overall brand experience to grow their brand.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to go ahead and pass the microphone over to you. So you guys, it's all you now.
Perfect. Can you see our screen?
We can.
All right, so as Tim said, this is Influencer Marketing 101 presented by Trendly, and we are the influencer marketing platform for Shopify. Now, the outline today is we're going to go over an overview of what influencer marketing is. We're going to talk about how to create your influencer marketing strategy, and then we're going to go over how to integrate this influencer marketing strategy into your overall brand experience. Now, there are a lot of misconceptions in the world of influencer marketing. So for our overview, we wanted to start with talking about what influencer marketing is not. One of the biggest things we see is that people will view influencer marketing as a vending machine, meaning that if you find an influencer or come across someone that you can pay or give a product exchange, they believe that it's as easy as just exchanging money and then watching your business grow and your sales come to the door. But what people have to realize is that when you're working in the world of influencer marketing, you are approaching real people, you are working with real people, and you are ultimately building relationships with real people. There isn't an exact science to influencer marketing, and so the way you approach people, the way you do your messaging is all going to come down to just testing with different creators, different influencers, and just figuring out what works best for your individual brand. Another misconception is that influence marketing is a one-and-done solution, but we're sorry to tell you that it is not. Influencer marketing, just like any other aspect of your business, is something that, as the brand owner, you have to continuously invest in with time and money in order to reap the benefits and see your brand grow. Influencer marketing is also not for everyone. So, over the course of building Trendly and working with thousands of brands, we have seen some success patterns among these brands, and we've seen influencer marketing works the best when you're promoting a lifestyle or a mission and you're not just selling products. Because in this world, having a clear identity is critical for building your brand. Influence marketing is also not a branded advertisement. And so what we try to do when we're working within influencer marketing, we're building relationships with these people to ultimately create experiences with our products. We are trying to get away from the branded advertisements. We're trying to get away from the posts and the advertisements. That's basically me as a brand telling people to buy my products. So when you look at an influencer as an ad board, then you're setting yourself up for failure. You have to view these influencers as a part of your overall brand strategy, and you have to give them creative freedom to kind of do what they do best, and that is share their own experiences with your products and with your brand. And lastly, influencer marketing is not a silver bullet strategy. And what we mean by that is when you're putting together your overall brand experience, you can't look at influencer marketing as the only thing you as a brand owner need to focus on in order to grow your brand. Because it is very, very necessary that you integrate your influencer marketing with your larger, cohesive brand experience. So now that we've went over some misconceptions in what influencer marketing is not, we're going to define influencer marketing for you right now. Influencer marketing is the process of building a community around your brand to share your story and create experiences with your products. So now that we understand a little bit more about what influencer marketing is not and what it is, we're going to walk you through a step-by-step process of building out your own influencer marketing strategy.
And the first step with building out your strategy, everything starts with identifying which types of influencers you want to work with. And there's a lot of ways to look at this. Mainly, the first thing you want to look at is what type of content are they creating, and does this not only match the aesthetic that you establish with your brand, but will it resonate with your target audience? And so in this example, if I'm a brand that is geared towards females, maybe they like to travel and wear bohemian clothes or something like this, I would look at someone like Nicole here and say, okay, this content, first and foremost, is definitely something that I want to go after and use for my brand and use to tell my brand story. And then next, it's really looking at this influencer. So I've used Nicole here as an example. And the first thing a lot of brands look at are how many followers does Nicole have, right? And this is not all bad, but there's a lot more that paints the picture as to whether or not you should work with Nicole. So a few different bullet points in terms of when you're looking at an influencer. First is the size of the audience. So Nicole has 12,000 followers, but and that's kind of a nice range, because what we recommend in terms of starting out when you're first working with influencers is to actually just do product exchange and not jump right into paying people. In fact, there are a lot of brands that have success and they never pay people, and it's all product exchange. And so that's something to definitely keep in mind. And if you're in this kind of 12,000, 15,000 follower range, that's a nice threshold to find people that will be willing to collaborate just for product. And the nice thing is that by taking out the monetary component of the actual collaboration, you're guaranteeing that Nicole actually cares about your brand, enjoys your products, wants to be a part of what you're doing. And so that's just a few reasons why we definitely recommend starting off with product exchange. But again, you got to look past the followers and really look at what kind of engagement is Nicole receiving. Are her followers real? Do they actually care about what she is saying? Going beyond the number of likes and comments, and something that we really look for is actually the nature of the comments that Nicole is receiving. Are there questions being asked? Is Nicole responding to these questions? Is there genuine dialogue that is happening? A lot of times when I'm talking with brands, they ask this question, and one of the examples that we use is, if you have an attractive female who posts a lot of pictures on the beach, is there dialogue happening in the captions, or is it a bunch of dudes with thumbs up? Because that's not real engagement, and you want to actually get a sense of that. Now, next is, can you get an idea of what other types of brands that Nicole is working with? Just tap on a few of her pictures and see, like, is she tagging a brand in your target market? Is it a brand that you want to emulate? Is it a brand that you want to stay away from? And this is a really nice way to get a sense of who you want to work with too, and also to find people that you want to work with. A lot of times we have kind of our short list of brands that we find aspirational, And seeing which types of people they're working with is a really great start to find influencers. Now, secondly, then you want to create your outreach strategy. And I have some kind of examples of how to go about this, but first I just want to highlight a few things. One is that influencers are approached every day. And so a lot of brands are under the notion that if, just by offering a free product, that they're guaranteed to not only get that influencer to want to work with them, but to be able to set all the terms and all of this. And that's just not the case. They have a lot of offers on the table. So it's really important to stand out. And the main way that you do this is be personal. Do not make it all about you. As Shopify brands, I'm sure you guys are receiving so many outbound cold sales emails from different plugins that are going to totally change the way you grow your business. And the first way, the easiest way to ignore one of those emails is if someone only talks about themselves and doesn't actually acknowledge that they even took the time to look into what your business is and what you might need. It's the exact same way when reaching out to an influencer as well. And then the last way to kind of make it personal is engage with their social feed first. Like a few photos, leave a personal comment, show them that you actually have taken the time to look at them and you're not just blasting out copy and paste messages. Now, let's look at kind of some messaging and kind of good and bad ways to go about this. So I'm just going to read this out loud and we can kind of dissect the paragraph here. So it says, "Hey fashionista, we love your feed and think you'd be great to promote our brand. Now, if we send you one of our bags, would you shout out our products to your followers in a couple posts on Instagram?" So let's look at kind of some of the mistakes that are made here. First off, fashionista. It's amazing to me the amount of brands that don't take the time to type the influencer's name and just copy and paste the same paragraph. It doesn't work. And you might think that you're saving time, but you're actually not, because you're going to have to do a lot more outreach in order to generate some quality influencers that actually want to work with you. Secondly, I highlighted promote our brand. Another thing that we see a lot is brands talking about themselves and not talking about the influencer and talking about what they get out of it. You have to avoid this in the same way that you would avoid it in a sales email. And that kind of is the same way with the shout out our products too. And then lastly, couple posts on Instagram. You don't want to outline exactly what you are asking and what the full details of the campaign are in your initial message. You want to just generate interest first. And I'll kind of show you how to do that. So on the other hand, here's an idea of some good messaging. So it says, "Hey Nicole, your overhead shot of the pink hat is just about the best thing we've seen on Instagram this week. We just released our new spring collection and judging by your feed, we think you look adorable in one of our jackets. What do you think? Can we send you a bit of info to your email to talk more?" So let's look at why this works. One, we actually use the influencer's name. Do this every single time. And in the same way that, if we were going to write a cold email, we're going to add some kind of a personal sentence in there too. It's the exact same way. So just take one little snippet that you can include to show that, hey, this is personalized to you. And then also, instead of saying promote our brand, instead they say, we think you'd look adorable in one of our jackets. The focus is on the influencer and not what you get out of the influencer. And then lastly, see how it says a bit of info to your email? The ask is super, super small. We don't want to get the influencer or require them to say yes to the full campaign in this first message. We want to make it really easy for them to say yes. Then you can send over some more info and start an actual dialogue. So now we talked a little bit about messaging. Really what you want to do is actually plan out the structure of your campaign. And this is pretty simple. There are three main ways to think about this. One, you have to nail down what you are offering the influencer. What is the incentive? Why do they care? Like I said, we definitely recommend finding people that will work with product exchange, at least in the beginning, and then you can kind of see what works for your brand. And then what are you requiring them to do? Are you looking for a certain amount of photos? Is there a timeline, or do you want them to post on a specific day to promote a certain launch of a new collection or something like that? And then lastly, finding the balance between creative freedom and accomplishing your goals. And what I mean by that is you don't want to give influencers, just tell them, hey, just go do whatever you want. But you also have to make sure that you are allowing them the ability to be creative and craft your content and tell your story in a way that resonates with their audience, because no one knows how to best talk about your brand to their audience except the influencer themselves, and you have to let that happen. Because really your goal is you want to generate content like this. And one, it's beautiful from an imagery standpoint, but what's really important here is these are all experiences, and you have someone talking about the experiences, and this is probably pretty small, but you have Laura here talking about taking the coffee on vacation with her and actually taking space in her suitcase to pack the coffee because she can't go a few days without it, and actually being able to create content like this. I mean, if you're going to tell the influencer exactly what to shoot, you're not going to get an image of someone flipping upside down in your backpack in the park. So really just making sure that you create room for the influencers to do what they do best. Now, talking about the content, this is really in a lot of respects where influencer marketing kind of begins. A lot of brands stop after the influencer actually posts about them, but really that's just the beginning of the value that can be created. Because what you want to do is you want to gather as much of these photos and authentic experiences as possible. And they might not only be photos. You can ask influencers to just share a couple sentences in an email or in a DM that you can use on your website, for instance. And really just making sure that this is a priority. And another kind of pro tip that we see is so many times a brand will say, hey, we would love if you would post 2 times on Instagram over the course of 1 month. Now, that's great. But a lot of times these influencers are creating 15 photos in order to find the 2 that they actually want to share with their audience. It's not a bad thing to ask if they have extra photos that they would care if you feature. A lot of times you can get a lot more content than you've actually expressly required. We highly, highly recommend asking influencers for this because these photos are absolutely invaluable. And the reason being is that the last part of what we see as the full influencer marketing pipeline is leveraging this content, because you have so many different digital touch points that make up your brand experience. This influencer content is invaluable to actually power these experiences. So getting them on social media, using them as the backbone of your advertising campaigns, featuring your community in your newsletter, and influencer content on product pages. This is where the brands that are really succeeding with influencer marketing truly excel, and the brands that don't necessarily understand how to get the most out of influencer marketing, they think it's all about just getting an influencer to post once on their feed. But we'd like to suggest that that's only the beginning. And so to kind of walk you through the last part of this, we've broken up what we think is kind of the main 4 touch points that most businesses are focusing on. And we'll kind of show you how to leverage this influencer content to best grow your business. The first one is social media. And so really one of the first things that you're going to be doing once you receive this content is actually getting it on your own social feeds. And there's a few ways that we see this done really well. The first one is using influencer content to establish and maintain a consistent aesthetic for your brand. So a brand that does that really, really well is Pure Vita Bracelets. And a lot of times when you're planning out your influencer campaign, you can actually say, hey, please take a look at our Instagram feed and get an idea of kind of the aesthetic that we're going after and see if that is you think that's a good fit and if you match that. That's something that a lot of brands will actually put in a campaign brief. And we do think it's a pretty good idea because you want to make sure that every piece of content that is created by an influencer is easily added and kind of blended into your existing aesthetic. And you want everything to be cohesive. And kind of along this line too, something that we just see too much is a brand will feature 5 or 6 influencer photos, which is great, but then that 7th photo will be an image of their product that's screenshotted from their website with a giant red banner that says 24-hour sale. There are better ways to do that, and it really kind of ruins the community showcase that you have going on there. And then secondly is highlighting these individual experiences. And I say experiences because you're not enlisting influencers to create product images and product showcases. You can do that. All you need is a nice camera. What you are working with influencers to create is to actually generate these experiences that come from like real life moments shared with your products. That is what, no matter how many cameras you buy and how much you invest in it, you cannot create. And so allowing room for that and making your feed about experiences and not just your products. And then lastly is featuring the community. So when you do repost an image created by an influencer, make sure to tag them in there, include them in your story, because what creates a really engaging social feed, and really every element of your brand experience, is putting your community first. And so you can see in this picture of Nicole, the brand has right off the bat tagged Nicole in the photo, and talked about her styling it. So we definitely recommend those three things in terms of getting influencer content on your social media feeds. Next is advertising. So obviously this is a great way to build awareness for your brand, and coupled with influencer marketing can do really well. There's a couple things that we want to highlight. First off, definitely use influencer content in your advertisements. These authentic photos simply perform better than a product image. And there are tons of Facebook case studies out there to prove that. And so one of the kind of easy way that we see get started is look at your Instagram feed, look at the photos that you have already reposted from influencers, and actually identify which ones are getting the most engagement and performing the best. Start with those, and from there just test and see what works best. The two things that we want to highlight, though, and what makes this image successful is, one, it features an authentic photo from an influencer, but secondly, it actually uses a testimonial as the caption. And this is really important, and it's actually crazy how much conversions can be increased simply by adding quotation marks, because it adds social proof to the whole message that you are sending. And that doesn't even have to be tied to user-generated content. It can actually feature product images, but something that Pura Vida does well is they actually, each one of these features little quotes from the influencers. And so for kind of going back to the Nicole example, it can be really easy. All you have to do is just put what's put on Instagram in the caption in quotes. So this kimono is sensational. It seems small, but it can have a really big effect on click-through rates. Moving on to the newsletter, this is another way that a lot of brands not only create but kind of re-engage their community. And so a couple examples of brands doing this really well are Carbon 38 and Everlane. And their newsletters actually feature not only the content created by the influencers, but they go so far as to actually add the Instagram handles of who is creating this content. And it's all about creating this brand story, putting your community first. And that's really, it's a nice way to create this aspirational feel with your brand, and something that influencers are so good at. The reason that they have such a following is because people want to be like influencers. So put their faces and who they actually are at the forefront of these touch points that you have with your brand, and you'll find a lot of success in benefiting from the community feel. The last one is your website, and it kind of follows along with the newsletter. It's all about social proof. Something that brands it's really easy to do is use the influencer content on the product pages in your website. So here's that Nicole photo yet again. And so people can see, the initial product images are, talking about the product details and maybe highlighting some different features, but then show real people wearing these products and maybe even what they're saying. There are a lot of ways and plugins to get community content on your website, but something that's so easy that everyone should be doing is repurposing all of the influencer content that they're generating on the product pages of their website.
So I know we crammed a lot of this in a short amount of time. In review, we talked about identifying target influencers and finding those people that will resonate most with who you are trying to reach as your target audience. Next is to execute an influencer outreach strategy, which is using the right type of messaging to build that community of influencers that can help create content for your brand. You also have to structure your influencer campaign so you know exactly what you are looking to gain out of this relationship. You have to organize the influencer content once you receive this content and leverage that content throughout your entire brand experience. And that's where Trendly comes in. So we actually integrate all of your influencer marketing directly with your Shopify store. And as a thanks for having us on this show, we are giving an exclusive 6 months free to anyone that is streaming live on this or happens to watch this video. Simply reach out to michael@trendlyapp.com to receive your discount code to enjoy 6 months free on Trendly. apps.shopify.com/Trendly.
Oh, there we go. Hey, thanks so much for this. now that we're out of the screen, the slideshow, that was some really great content.
We tried to scratch the surface as much as we could. There's a lot to it, right? But once you start to understand and get in the flow of kind of working with creators and building out the strategy, it actually comes pretty easy. So we appreciate you having us on here, and we tried to fit as much as we could in the time we had.
Yeah, for sure. So there are a couple of things. I'm just going to go ahead and go into a question actually that I had, which is, so you mentioned about like this works really well for businesses who have like a lifestyle or a mission. And my question is like, is it possible to create that from an existing business that didn't have kind of a lifestyle or a mission like at their core when they started out? Like, and can you talk a little bit about like what that would look like?
Yeah, I think sometimes people look at like lifestyle brands or brands that have some kind of like a social good behind them, and they think like, well, that is what we should be, like that's what it requires to have a mission behind the brand.
Yeah.
And that's really not true, honestly. Your reason for existence, and maybe that's a better way to even think about it, as a reason for existence. It could simply be like, hey, we just want to make comfortable clothes that get you outdoors more, or we just want to make a water bottle that encourages you to drink more throughout the day. One of the first things, obviously we look at a ton of Shopify websites, as I'm sure you do too, and one of the first things we look for is, does the brand have an about page on their website? It does not have to be a really elaborate about page with a video of them saving children in Africa. It could literally just be 3 sentences, or a lot of times if you don't know what to do, sometimes even just telling your own story and why you started the brand. If it's just kind of like a small, you just startup shop, tell who you are. Because a lot of times that is enough for someone to be like, okay, Catherine seems pretty awesome. I think I actually would like to buy from her. So it doesn't have to be too elaborate.
Okay. But if you are saving children in Africa,
by all means,
definitely
put it everywhere.
Nice. Claudia is asking, can you tell us a little bit more about the Trendly app? And one of the things that I was thinking as we were talking about this, it would be great to see in the back end of one. I don't know if that's putting you on the spot, but what does it look like? How do you interact with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in kind of keeping with the frame of kind of the life cycle of an influencer campaign, there's a lot of ways that you can really streamline the process by integrating with Shopify, and that's what we focus on. For instance, we talked a lot about doing influencer outreach with all of the messaging and structuring a campaign. Fact is that you have to have those conversations in email threads or in Instagram threads or wherever else your brand is. If you're doing it outside of Trendly, what we make really easy is essentially what you do is you come to the platform, you say, this is my campaign, this is what my requirements are, this is what my campaign brief is, this is what I'm hoping to accomplish, and then you can actually say, these are the types of people that I'd like to work with. Set that in stone one time, and that way, what we basically eliminate, first and foremost, is the requirement to do manual outreach in order to qualify interests. So you shouldn't be doing that all day. It's really time consuming. And so basically you can say, this is exactly what we're looking for. And then we'll present that to influencers. And that way, when they say, yeah, I'd love to work with you, you're reviewing people that have already said yes. And that makes it very simple.
Yeah. So talk about your, because I know that when you go to your website, you can be a brand or you can be a creator. So tell us about like what it takes to be a creator.
Yeah, so for us, we have the website separate into 2 ways. One is brands, and that directs you to the Shopify sales channel where you can integrate very seamlessly with Trendly. And then creators for us is, like Mike mentioned earlier, when we're looking at the different followers, we're looking at the aesthetics, it's really understanding what is a creator versus what is not a creator. And the brands that want to work with creators that we find or that are on our platform are the ones that are actually creating this beautiful content that actually showcases the lifestyle of that brand. And we do a lot of our own sort of outreach for creators, we also vet all of our creators, because if we come across an Instagram profile or some sort of profile of this creator and they are just kind of posting pictures that don't have an aesthetic or a theme or wouldn't resonate with any brands, then those are not the kind of people that we want to work with.
Yeah.
So it definitely has the influencer side of the market, and then we also work with all the brands to connect them in a single platform that integrates directly with all of their products and all their stuff on their store on Shopify.
And I think it's important to elaborate kind of on how it actually works with Shopify. Because one of the things that basically what you're going to have to do is if, you reach out to someone like Nicole and she says, yeah, I'd love to work with you. The first thing you have to do is say, okay, which product would you like? What size are you? What's your shipping information? A lot of brands take that, put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then also go manually create that order in Shopify to fulfill. That process doesn't exist anymore with Trendly. We have all of the creators' information saved. We pull all of your products in from Shopify, so when they're accepted to a campaign, they just select from this collection that you've built, and that way, that new order is sent straight to your Shopify dashboard. We're able to track it, know exactly where they're at in the process, and we just want to get brands out of email and spreadsheets. That was way back in the day. Like we realized, okay, this has to happen. Let's do it.
And then another good thing is that once you have your campaign set up, which is a matter of seconds, you choose the products that you want for your campaign. The last step is receiving all of that content. And so the creators actually upload all of the content for your brand directly into Trimly. And so we have an organized content library for every brand to access. They can take those photos and automatically put them in their product pages for their Shopify brand. They can automatically put those in their social media or on their website.
Nice. That's super helpful. Like I've done a little bit of this before, and I know that that's a real. I don't like to swear on this show, so. So Pankaj is asking for my product range. I'm selling like leather bags and accessories. What type of influencers should I be targeting, and how can Trendly help us with that? So leather bags.
Yeah, that's good. So a lot of times, when we look at bags or we look at the different types of brands, it's really like, what are you going after? Are you more of an outdoors type of brand, or are you more of a casual type of brand? Depending on what that is, kind of what your identity is of that brand, you simply just try to match yourself with some of these influencers. So there are a lot of influencers out there that, their whole wardrobe is made up of leather goods, leather handbags, leather jackets, whatever that is. And so it's really just, it's a process of matching, right? It's trying to match what your brand is selling with the types of creators or influencers that are already kind of in that world of what you're doing. And so we see a lot of success with accessories, working with influencers and using accessories, because they're really easy to exchange and they're really easy to showcase as an experience within all of these photos that are being created on behalf of the brand. So it's really just about finding those influencers that really have the same type of energy and aesthetic and use kind of the same products that you're selling, and then just putting together your outreach strategy.
Thanks.
And you could even say, you could say, hey, we're really looking for like urban imagery, or hey, if you could actually be in a coffee shop, that's the vibe that we're looking to promote with this given campaign. It really is up to what you're trying to portray the brand as.
Nice. Makes sense. So we have a question. Can a brand specify an influencer in one specific country? So for example, Canada. Is it possible within Trendly?
Yeah, so the very first step of setting up a campaign within Trendly is really specifying what your criteria is. And so you can say whether or not, if you sell directly to men versus women, or you're a unisex brand, you can select that. You can select a country that you're trying to target, trying to find influencers that live in that specific country. And then in the previous example, you can mention kind of what your brand is. Maybe it's leather goods or accessories or beauty brands. You can determine that up front so we can try to match you best with the influencers that will resonate with your target audience.
Thanks. And we also have Anita who's asking, how exactly are the influencers vetted?
Good question. Chris touched on this a little bit. There's two main things we look for. Basically, we look at the quality of content. But not only can you create an individually high-quality photo, but can you weave together 9 or 12 photos that create this cohesive feed? I think that's a nice indicator of creativity.
Mm.
And then secondly, we look at the engagement. But kind of as I mentioned in the presentation, making sure to go beyond the numbers. The numbers are a great starting point, but you have to actually see what the quality of the engagement is. And specifically what we look for are questions being asked in the comments, and is the influencer engaging with those people in their response? That is the holy grail of engagement for us. And another thing kind of on the, just to be clear, we are very different from your traditional influencer marketplace in that Trendly is 100% product exchange. There's no paying influencers on Trendly right now. And the reason is because we want to focus on the relationship component of it. And by stripping away the monetary component, one, that's how we would do it. That's what we see work really well. So we want to empower brands in that way. But it also guarantees that people actually care about what you're doing in your story, and they don't really just care about their next $200 on PayPal.
Yeah, makes sense. Nice. Okay, well, I think that is the time that we have for questions today. Thank you guys for coming on. I'll go ahead and wrap it up a little bit. If you guys want to make this chat even better and get awesome Shopify advice at the same time, you can email me directly at hello@storetasker.com, and your question is very likely to appear on a next chat. Also, if you are afraid of missing out on the next chat, you can join our newsletter, which will be in the comments below. You can get recaps sent to your inbox each week. Within the next 24 hours, you're going to find this chat available to rewatch on YouTube, where we publish all of our chats. And if you are watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out. Finally, if you want to boost your sales and improve your Shopify store, post a job on Storetasker. You can be chatting with a vetted Shopify expert within minutes. Michael, Chris, if someone wants to get started with Trendly, what can they do?
They can start by going to apps.shopify.com/Trendly, where you can find our sales channel. Simply hit the install button and you'll be good to go. You could also reach out to Michael at trendlyapp.com to receive your free 6-month coupon.
Awesome. Great. Thanks again. This was awesome. I feel like I've learned a lot. I hope that other people have also learned a lot. And hopefully we can have you on again sometime.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.